Today's guest is Republican Congressman Tom Emmer. He's the House of Representatives' Chief Majority Whip and has been representing Minnesota's 6th Congressional District since 2015. He's a longtime advocate of blockchain technology and digital assets and co-founded and now co-chairs the Congressional Crypto Caucus. Congressman Emmer, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you guys.
Welcome to the show. Before we dive into a plethora of topics, looking at the landscape today, what does crypto in America mean to you right now?
The sun is rising.
Ooh, I like that.
We had the crypto summit at the White House, and one of these great entrepreneurs piped up at the beginning when everybody was introducing themselves around the table and said, a year ago, those of us in the crypto community never would have expected assembling in the White House. We figured that we'd more likely be in jail than here in the White House, and here you are a year later. David Sachs is the crypto czar. You got Bo Hines working with him in the White House. You've got all of these people in the industry bringing this country into the 21st century. We're in a completely different place, Jacqueline. We're in a place where America is open for business. And in this case, the business is about innovation, the next generation of the internet and digital assets. And it is an amazing time.
Congressman, we had to get your take on the 13-hour marathon markup, they're calling it, of the Stable Act and your Anti-CBDC bill. They both passed the House Financial Services Committee. Were you there for the whole 13 hours?
I went in and out. I was conducting other business, but I'll tell you what, I was there probably from, I got to look over at Lizzie and say probably like 9 o'clock until midnight, almost 11:30. And then I was there in the middle of the day, and I did other things as well, but went back and forth. But that last stretch, oh my goodness, that was like running up a very tall hill and getting to those last few yards. Your legs are burning, your lungs are just on fire, and you just got to finish. Maxine wasn't going to give us any leeway whatsoever at the end. We had to take, I think, over 30 votes. At the end of the night. And it was, you look at it this way. This is the way our republic, our constitutional republic, is supposed to work. There's a merging of ideas. There's a smashing of ideas, if you will. People running into each other, agreeing, disagreeing. I love what we did yesterday, even though it took a long time and it was painful. People need to talk about this stuff. They need to get it out in the open. I think some of these, and it's mostly on the Democrat side, keep in mind, this is still a nonpartisan issue to me, and it's always going to be. We got a lot of great members on the other side of the aisle that were, voicing concerns that I got to take serious. I got to listen to. I got to understand. Because there is, I think, French Hill, there's an appetite within this committee to make sure it's nonpartisan, that we get it done. But then you get some of these guys who, they don't even understand the area, and all they talk about is still, years later, it's about Silk Road. It's about, this is the worst of the worst. They're going to have to catch up. Right now, they seem to be the dinosaurs in the room, and you're looking at somebody who should be a dinosaur, because I probably was on the earth with the dinosaurs, but I'm in the 21st century. I'm learning. I want to see this thing grow. Yesterday was amazing. Yes, there were all kinds of amendments. Yes, people wanted to have their voices be heard. But at the end of the day, we passed Brian Stiles' Stable Act. It was pretty much on a party line vote, but don't expect that to be the case going forward. They were making certain statements as we were going through. And look, their ranking member is highly political. So not surprising. I'll give you an example very quick. And sorry, Jacqueline, that I'm taking this off the rails, or Eleanor, I think you asked me.
You're the guest, please.
Well, at the end of the night, Ann Wagner from Missouri suggested that would the ranking member ever be interested in just putting all of these amendments in bank and voting on them at the same time? And you had colleagues of ours on their side of the aisle clapping. We want that. Yes, let's do that. And Maxine, she just couldn't do it. So we had to vote on all of them separately, and we finished the work. Look, the Stable Act, Is it perfect? No, but I think it is a great start. This is exactly what is needed in this country is a framework that people can understand, and they can start to look at the future as to how they are going to be able to participate in this country in creating and trading and all the things that come with stablecoins. The next thing will be the market structure bill, and then I'll finish with the anti-central bank digital currency, the Anti-Surveillance Act, the prohibition on central bank digital currencies. I mean, we were talking about it in the office. It turned out to be one of the most non-controversial bills that we've ever had go through the committee. There were no amendments. There was little discussion, and it passed. Again, more on a party line vote, but I don't think it's a party line issue. I think this is a nonpartisan issue. There's a lot of Democrats who agree completely with the concept that our government should never be able to create a central bank digital currency, which is essentially programmable money, which can literally control and surveil American citizens. It just shouldn't happen. And it was a good day.
Whip Emmer, you're taking the question just right out from under me. You're setting me up perfectly here. Really appreciate you jumping into the CBDC issue. Obviously, those of us in the industry concerned about surveillance, privacy, totally understand the importance of the issue. But to your point, it has turned out to be such a nonpartisan or such a unilateral sort of stance that you guys have taken on that. Like, what was it like developing consensus there? Why do you think it's something that members of Congress just seem to get on the CBDC issue?
Well, remember, we all believe in helicopters, black helicopters. We just think different people are flying them, right? Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, we all have the same concern. I mean, when you look at what the Chinese Communist Party is doing with the digital yuan, they're not just surveilling their citizens. They're actually building social scores. And I presume those social scores will be used to determine who is worthy of certain healthcare treatment, who deserves to have a better position in society and, a nicer car. And that is not an American value at all. And I know the central authority folks, like the senator from Massachusetts, who shall not be named, and others, they're deathly afraid of this decentralization movement. Because why? Because it puts you and me back in charge. It puts our constituents it gives them back the power to make the decisions they believe are in their best interest without having people like the senator who shall not be named telling them this is what you're going to have to do. I mean, I think our public is really frustrated with its government and, more importantly, elected officials who don't even know who they are personally, telling them this is not good for you. You just stay right there. We're going to take care of you. You know what? Look at where that's gotten us. So it's a new day, and you're going to have a lot of Republicans and Democrats who are opposed to that kind of top-down control. It just so happens right now, I'm not finding many Republicans who are involved in it. There's a handful on the other side that just won't give it up. And you know what? What they need to understand is you got to do your job in Congress to allow this to happen. And if it needs guardrails, you got to figure out what those guardrails are. You got to have a light touch regulatory regime over it so it can grow and develop and innovate. And you better get on board, because if you don't, it's going to happen, but it may not happen here.
Why do you think that is, that some of them are not on board on the Republican side? And then how do you think having this digital currency policy in the hands of Americans opposed to administrations, as you mentioned, sets the tone for what is possible within this industry?
You're going to get to the core of my political beliefs, which is
Go ahead.
Our government is the greatest legalized form of the mafia that we have ever seen. They are supposed to give you and me security in return for you and me paying the vig, right? Come on, give me the money and we'll take care of you. And the problem is, over the years, it has become all about our safety. We give away all kinds of liberty. We give away all kinds of our ability to self-determine because we want to be safe. And I think people are realizing, well, we're no safer than we would normally be. And by the way, we've been disenfranchised from actually making the decisions that matter most. Those that are opposed to it, are, I think it's two things. One, it's people that just do not understand what this is. And I won't name names because it makes it too personal, but there are some that just, they open their mouths and they sound ignorant. They just have no concept of what this is. There's another group, they truly believe they want to be the ones making the decisions and control. Do I think that's a large group? No. But it is a group that is in Congress, and they don't want to see the decentralization because decentralization empowers the individual and disempowers the central government elected official or bureaucrat. Frankly, it balances society. So I think those are the people that you're seeing opposed to it, ignorant and self-interested.
Whip Emmer, I want to touch on one of those points about surveillance that you made and kind of how this is built up over time. The Decentralized Research Center put on the Decentralized Tech Summit in DC recently, and one of the spicier takes that I think I actually see gaining some momentum, at least on our side of the table, and then we'll see where everybody else lands, is that the BSA, the Bank Secrecy Act, may be, I'm just going to call it a bit overreaching. And I'm very curious, not to get down in the weeds and grab our soundbite right off the bat, but what are your thoughts on where we could go? The legislative agenda looks good, but what do you think about that level of surveillance?
I have to be careful with the way I answer this one because I answered this question for somebody at the Crypto Summit here last week. And I believe they kind of took out of context, and maybe it's my fault the way I communicated it, but they took it to mean that I don't think BSA is necessary in this area. That's not what the context was. The context was much like, our banking system. The regulations that were written for our banking system were written in the 1930s. It never contemplated where we're at right now, and it's the same thing with BSA. It was written years ago for a specific purpose that did not contemplate where we're at. And where we're at is we have digital assets that travel on an open and transparent blockchain where people who understand this can literally see what is moving. Are there some things that we might need to ensure that, it's legal activity, et cetera? Yeah, absolutely. But my point, and I should have been more clear maybe, was that BSA, we need to have whatever the rules are with this drafted for this brave new world that we're in, as opposed to trying to shoehorn the brave new world into yesterday.
Congressman, I want to take it back just a little bit. I know you've been a big advocate for digital assets and blockchain technology, arguably years before many of your congressional colleagues got on board. You formed, and now you co-chair the Congressional Crypto Caucus. I want to know what got you so interested in crypto in the first place, and when did that interest start?
It's funny. It started when I first got to Congress. I had a young man who was a legislative assistant who ultimately became the legislative director and then went out. He's now working at the Treasury, but he's my kid's age, right? I got 7 kids, 35 to 23, almost 24 now. And he was a gamer. I come to find out later that he loved doing this stuff when he wasn't working. Really a smart kid. He gave me a book called The Age of Cryptocurrency because it was something that he was interested in. I think he was surprised. You give me a book, I read it. And I read the book, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is literally everything that I've believed in since my formative years when I was coming of age in the late 70s, early 80s, but in the digital world. It's about empowering the individual. It's about making sure that government actually works for us rather than rules over us. I mean, all of this, and it really lit me up. And the other piece that lit me up is that I'm 64 years old. I have no business doing this stuff. I didn't grow up in the internet like my kids, like you. That's all they've ever known. They've worked on computers and they've communicated virtually in other ways ever since they can remember. They process information differently than my generation does. My generation was used to having a two-dimension. I mean, we used to get excited when Disney World had a three-dimensional movie that we got to go see and put funny glasses on, right? These kids, you guys, you can think in multiple dimensions, and you can abstract like we just weren't trained to do. It's a completely different world. That's what excited me because I see it in my own kids. And it's like, it's a way to understand their world, but it was amazing how it fit with my politics.
Mm-hmm. I'm honored that you put us in the group of your kids. We're
Well,
not that young, but I do appreciate
you guys
it.
are. I don't think you guys are going to get the senior citizen discount anytime soon.
I wish. I need that discount in this economy.
Inflation's killing me.
Literally. But it's interesting you bring that up because while you were talking, it made me think about when I was younger. And maybe this does put me in a certain age group, that there was a time when the internet was considered taboo and they wanted to regulate the internet and they wanted to control it. And it was considered dangerous because you could do bad things on the internet. And like, yeah, you could still do bad things on the internet then and now. I'm not saying that wasn't a case, but I feel like there's a similar energy. And then in 5 to 10 years, we'll look back and be like, it was so silly that there was this war on blockchain technology, right?
I totally agree. That and AI.
Mm-hmm.
I think as we start moving into this incredible new world, the digital age of the 21st century, there are so many advances that we're going to see, much like we saw in the 1800s in this country, in the early 20th century, just all of these different inventions. Well, now you've got this whole new world, and you've got a generation or two that has been raised inside of it, right? And yeah, I mean, you date yourself a little bit because you must be a child of the 90s because it's one of these things where, yes, we didn't know what it was. I laughed the other day. My dad passed away about 4 years ago, and after he passed away, we realized he still had his AOL account.
Oh my gosh!
But that's how much this has changed. So, yeah, it's the future is incredibly bright. We just got to make sure that our government understands. And I love when you say that everybody's scared of stuff they don't know. But as we start to see these advances, we see the innovation that comes with it. We see what it does to improve our quality of life and our ability to chase our American dream. I'll tell you what, I just think you're right. We're going to have the same experience that children of the 90s had. We'll just have it be children's of the 20s.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do when people talk about the user experience, right? Crypto, not perfect UX issues here, but I love going back and showing people. It's a YouTube video now. You can't find it anywhere else. The little yellow guy just crossing this.
Pac-Man.
Gets stopped in the middle, and then you get the dial tone and everything. It is. We're still so early, with this technology.
I got to tell you, I'm a child of the 70s, which means my first introduction to electronic games was Pong.
War on electronic games.
That's all it was. I mean, it was a dial.
Yeah.
And you just.
I loved that. It was the game where it was like this, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It holds up. It holds up.
Yeah.
You can
That's
get
a
lost
good
in
game.
that thing.
It lasts decades, exactly.
You must have played Snake on your mobile phone, Congressman, back in the day.
I've never played a game on my phone. I don't even have games on my phone. I don't know how to do it. This is terrible. Don't tell anybody. This is just between us. But I use my phone when I'm not working to watch either a hockey game or a baseball game.
Okay.
Literally. So
or Crypto in America.
One of my sons was sending me so much great stuff last night. He was sending it to the whole family. He's sending. I bought an NFT of a rock.
Oh.
Ooh.
And he said he did it because it made him think about one of his brothers and how he is his number one rock.
Oh,
Nice
that's
analogy.
cute. As long as it's not an NFT of a toilet, I think we're all good. Because those were a thing once upon a time. They were.
I think Hallmark might want to look into NFT here. I think we might be onto something here.
Don't give him any ideas. You corner that market. Go get it.
What do you think about the conversations you're having with people behind closed doors that listeners wouldn't be privy to? We jokingly brought up before how some people just are so anti this industry because they don't understand it. Do you think these people truly don't understand it? And I know I'm putting them into a bucket when I say this, but if so, like, what is it going to take to really get us to that next step?
A couple of years ago, when the tragedy that is the Russian-Ukrainian war broke out, you had that certain senator that shall not be named talking about how all the oligarchs in Russia were moving all of their assets out of Russia using crypto. Clearly, she doesn't understand if you've got a self-custodied wallet and you're not like putting it out on the blockchain, you're not going to see that. And by the way, if what she said was true, you may not know who it is, but you would have seen the assets moving across the blockchain. That's a perfect example of ignorance that, somebody wants to fire their mouth off to the press, and it's like, she doesn't even know what she's talking about. Then there are people that are very well aware of what they're talking about, and that's why I say these are the central government folks. These are I want to control this. My decision should be enough for you, and that's not you. Whether you're a child of the 90s or you're a child of the early 2000s, that is not your world. Your world, and I'll tell you what, there's an even bigger group in this country that lived through the pandemic from the ages of 18 to 24. That pandemic spawned the next generation of libertarians. It spawned the absolute certainty of a digital community that is never going away, because those kids, and they are kids to me, those kids did not like being controlled. They didn't like being told that they couldn't go out. They didn't like being told that it's for your safety and everything else. And they're never going to forget it, because they never want that to happen again. And I think the independence that has created, the energy maybe that we were talking about earlier, that's where it's really coming from.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that energy in Washington. There's a history of at least in the previous administration, and obviously nonpartisan issue, but of kind of ignoring or being a bit at odds with the technology industry. And now you have folks like Brian Quintenz, going.
He's awesome, man.
Shout out Brian. Yeah. Gonna do good things at the CFTC. You got David Sachs. We had Bo on the podcast. And he's doing great work as well.
Yeah.
What is it like to, as a legislator, not only be not antagonistic, but actually colleagues with these people? Like how has that experience been for you guys?
Well, you're leaving out the biggest one. My whole world changed when Donald J. Trump first announced after the New Hampshire primary, if I'm your president, you will not have a central bank digital currency. And then shortly after that, I think it might have been South Carolina, he announced after that one, I will be your crypto president. Shortly after that, on the campaign trail, he traveled to Nashville in one of his 3 stops that day. The guy, just an amazing freak of nature, how at his age, the energy he's got, most young people don't have. But he went to Nashville to the Bitcoin conference, you might remember, and he stood up front and he said, my first day in office, I will fire Gary Gensler. And that place just erupted. And you almost see him get taken back a little bit. And then he says, you just know he's thinking to himself, I'm going back in. I will fire Gary Gensler. That's where it changed. Is that Donald J. Trump understands. He may not understand all the nuances and the details. That's not what's important. But this guy has a vision of the future, and he's got a touch and feel for the people that he's talking to like nobody else. He recognizes what this is, the promise that this is. He recognizes why it's so important that it happen in this country. It's no different than his thoughts about we got to start bringing manufacturing back here. We got to start producing drugs in this country. We got to produce the things that we need to live and survive in this country. It's no different with this. He has taken the approach, which is so good for people like me on the policymaker side, that we are going to make sure this happens right here in the USA. And that's I think that's even bigger than some of the other changes. The other changes are just over time. I mean, when you guys, I think Eleanor brought up, how did you get involved in this? Back when I got involved, the Blockchain Caucus, I think the first meeting I went to had the greatest odd couple of all time as the co-chairs. It was Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, and Mick Mulvaney from South Carolina. I mean, wild, right? The only person that is still there today from that original meeting is my friend David Schweikert from Arizona. And this group has grown. It seems like we hit different growth rings. You remember a few years ago, we had what I still think was a misguided tax policy to generate tax revenue brought out by the Senate side in an infrastructure bill that seemed to wake up the industry for the first time, right? And then I've been a campaign guy now for years. I mean, I know all of our districts, which means I know our states pretty well. It's amazing that the crypto industry decided they were going to have their voice heard this time. They not only had a president, but they also had the ability to make people understand this is an issue that is important to this country, and we're going to advocate for it.
There's another person that we left off the list, and that's Paul Atkins, who is about to become the next SEC chairman.
It's going to be great.
Congressman Emmer, yes. So you had some quite vocal moments at the House Financial Services hearings when it came to the oversight of the SEC and Gary Gensler over the last 4 years. Those were quite memorable. And Paul Atkins is going to be replacing Gary Gensler if he gets his vote through the Senate. You said he's going to be great. Can you elaborate? I mean, is Paul going to be everything that Gary wasn't?
Not a high bar.
I was just going to say, Gary set a pretty low bar. I mean, think about this. We need stable coins. We need market structure. We need to have clarity and certainty in the system so investors, entrepreneurs can, take risk and innovate. And what was Gary Gensler doing? He was stopping all of that. He was telling people, my door is open. Bring any idea you got. We're happy to talk to you about it. Well, if you were naive enough to do that, he usually sued you or he sent you a letter that you're under investigation afterward. One of the things that is really, really interesting is it seems like I listened to this at length yesterday, and I'm not a big fan of meme coins, so I'm not here to advocate for them at all. But I heard a lot of complaints about meme coins yesterday during the hearing, about people taking advantage of meme coins and allegedly misleading, whatever, and making money off of them. You realize Gary Gensler is the one that said this is what we could use meme coins for. He's the one that actually empowered the creation of meme coins the way we see it right now. He's the one who made it okay. So if you don't like it, I agree with you. Stop complaining about it, and let's figure out how we can put some guardrails on that. I think Atkins, again, the bar's not high, but what I think we're going to see now out of the SEC is that clarity and that certainty. I've been saying for 8 years since I got involved in this thing, 9, I guess now, I forget, a little over 9, that we got to have an understanding of what is currency, what is security, and what is a commodity. We need. I'm sick and tired of hearing about the case law, and that. The attorneys, the courts. Why are we doing that? We're Congress. Why don't? And I think it'll start with the new SEC chair, but he will give us direction, much like Trump is doing with executive orders, and then it's going to be up to us in Congress to take those that are incredibly important and codify them, put them into law so that they have a lasting impact on the marketplace. And at the end of the day, I hope that he, and I expect him to be kind of a light touch type guy. I expect him to put the SEC back on mission. Gary Gensler took it off mission. What it's supposed to do is make sure that every single American has access to the greatest financial markets on the face of the planet. And what Gary Gensler was doing was saying, well, if you're traditional finance, you can have access. But if you're this new digital stuff, this is bad. We're going to make sure that we stop you from doing anything. That actually doesn't hurt in my opinion, doesn't hurt the digital community as much as it hurts American citizens that want to be involved in this great new world and want to be able to take their own chances. I think he's going to make sure that that's the SEC that we believe it should be. I think he's going to make sure it is, and then it's going to be up to us to take his lead and put the reforms that he institutes into law.
Do you expect to see, just on that front, making investing available to everybody, do you expect to see a rollback on the accredited investor laws, at least an effort to try and make it a little bit more inclusive for those retail traders who want to get in on early IPOs and certain investment opportunities that they're right now not available to those people?
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, I was just going to say, I mean, I think there's a consensus that the Jobs Act was a good start, right? It was well-intentioned.
How many years ago is that now?
It was a while ago.
It's more than a decade.
Yeah. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
It shows you how fast Congress moves. We need updating. We need streamlining. I think you got to be careful because the two parties right now, one is very concerned that you and I can't take care of ourselves. And that's a little bit partisan. I shouldn't say it that way. But they think that government needs to protect you and me from the risks that are out there that we may not fully comprehend and we shouldn't be taking. On the other side of it, which I fall way on the other side of that, it should be wide open. The answer truly is somewhere in the middle. And I think, they're right and we're right, but where is that place that is the sweet spot where we can honor your liberty and at the same time have the guardrails in place so that people can't take advantage of other people? It's very difficult for them. And by the way, if they do, there's some recourse. There's some consequences. That's Congress's job. So when you ask me if there's going to be rollback, maybe it's called rollback, but I think it's more like what I was talking about with banking laws, what I was talking about with the Know Your Customer and BSA. These things, we've got to bring this into the 21st century. We've got to contemplate rules and laws that actually apply to digital assets, not trying to make, the traditional finance rules and regulations fit something that it doesn't fit. So if that's rollback and reform, so be it. But I think it's more improvement and creating efficiencies and certainty in the system.
We want to ask you about market structure as well. I think we would be remiss if we didn't. We're hearing that the House has been working behind the scenes to do an updated version of the bill that incorporates components of the FIT 21 bill. And for our listeners who don't know what that is, Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act that passed in the House last May and aimed to essentially create clear rules of the road for digital assets. And then the Lummis-Gillibrand Responsible Financial Innovation Act that was introduced in 2022 with similar aims. A lot of that said, but in layman's terms, how would you kind of characterize what this bill means for the industry and the future of market structure?
Well, I tend to agree with our chairman, French Hill, that the stablecoin bill really isn't going to be the same unless you have a market structure bill at the same time. One needs the other one. And the FIT 21 bill, my issues were and still are, although I think they've made improvements. Remember, that was done in a different environment. Patrick McHenry built a great foundation, and he did it working with Democrats. But it's a different environment today. Well, which is good because it's that group that I talked about. That this isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. This is literally finance is an American issue, right? And everybody needs to have the opportunity to participate. But the difference now is that we have a president who will sign this into law. So this is a live exercise, not a theoretical exercise anymore. The concerns that we have on our side are the state pathway, preserving the state pathway, not giving the Federal Reserve any more authority, or any other federal bureaucracy for that matter, any more authority than it already has. There are some other nuances. The disagreement on both sides, right, is how much regulation, who, when, and versus less, more and less. I'm not going to get everything I want. I mean, I know that on the other side, there are going to be some of my colleagues who feel passionately about this space like I do. And I think I've got to take into account when they say, this is what I'm worried about. If you cut out the federal bureaucracy completely, I got to listen to that. But I'm telling you, I know where I fall, but that's why they're going to, it's the same thing that I said before. They have their perspective. I have mine. They're not right necessarily. Neither am I. The answer is probably somewhere in between us, as opposed to on one side or the other.
That fits in nicely with your saying, Congressman Emmer, that crypto is a nonpartisan issue. I think we're seeing that increasingly more and more, especially in the wake of the last 4 years. But do you see that sense of nonpartisanship going forward growing? Are we going to stay the same for a little while? Like, how long is it going to take until everybody accepts that cryptocurrency is a technology and a nonpartisan issue?
Well, this is why Richie Torres and I created the Crypto Caucus. I mean, the Blockchain Caucus exists for several years, and that was an educational caucus, trying to raise awareness about what this great new industry is and about blockchain technology and all the innovation that's taking place. Well, now we've got the Crypto Caucus that there's significant interest in, but this is an advocacy caucus. This is a group of people. Doesn't matter what your party affiliation is or your politics. We all agree on this area as being important to all Americans. We're writing bylaws as we speak to tighten up expectations, commitments, because what this caucus is going to do is when there's something that is good for digital assets, again, doesn't matter what our party affiliation is, we are going to band together and advocate and vote for that. When it's something that's anti-digital, when it's something that's harmful to the industry, we're going to band together as a group of votes, and we're going to stop it. So I think that's how it's changing now. It's gone from education to performance, and I think it's actually a great time to be in Congress, because we're going to do things that are going to have, much like the 1930s securities laws after the Great Depression and the other things that were passed, had an incredible effect for 100 years. What we're doing right now, I think, is going to be impacting us, this country, the world, 100 years from now and beyond.
I want to follow up on that point. You talked about an emphasis on knowing your constituents or districts, and always being sort of campaigning. And, the way it works here in the States, we seem to always have another election right around the corner. How are you feeling about carrying that momentum? Like, it's obviously been, and hopefully will continue to be a very productive Congress for the industry. How do you feel about 2026 and carrying this forward?
I think this community, which this community to me is not Republican or Democrat. Yes, some of them might be. But I think the vast majority of entrepreneurs, Bitcoin enthusiasts, crypto in general, most of them, I think, over the years that I've met, lean to the left. Some may be even far left, right? Which is why I'm able to work with some of my colleagues in Congress that don't see the world exactly the way I do. I think those people showed us in this last election that I ain't voting politics anymore. I'm going to vote for the people that are going to carry this forward. I want this. I want to be involved in it. I want it here in my country. I don't want to have to go to Malta. I don't want to have to go to wherever, some faraway place to make this happen. I want it happening right here, and it's really exciting, because I think that's where we're at, and that's why we're going to succeed, I believe. Mm-hmm. In the midterms, if you're talking, every day in this job is a job interview. There's no question. We have elections every 2 years, which means you get maybe a few weeks after the November election, and you're already working on the next one, right? But people who think that's a bad thing don't understand. People who tell me that we should have longer terms in Congress don't understand. This is a people business. This is a customer service business. Why should it be easy for someone with an election certificate? We're supposed to be working with our constituents every day. And if you want to get reelected, if you want to continue to do this job, you need to do the work for your constituents. I think this group that is pretty much agnostic now on Democrat, Republican. They're just Americans. I think they're going to continue to elect people who show them that we actually are serious about making sure that this industry not only remains, but thrives and creates the next great things in this country. So I think that'll be helpful to us as we get to next year.
100%. Congressman Emmer, this has been super interesting. Last question we like to ask our guests. Aside from everything that we've discussed, what is something else you're watching in D.C. that you think others should pay attention to as well?
Well, this past week, the cherry blossoms. I
Oh.
don't get out much, as you might expect. So when I come into town and I'm driving to the hill, this is an amazing place in the spring. I'm kind of a winter guy at home. I love winter, but I actually love all seasons. But you come out here this time of year, I mean, I can talk to you all day long about crypto. I can talk to you all day long about how you get a team to work together and actually do things, achieve things that nobody thinks are possible. But you know what's really fun? Is when spring starts waking up in Washington, D.C., and you see all these cherry blossoms and the flowers are coming out. It's a great sign. It also reminds you, no matter how wrapped around the axle you get about whatever issues that's out there, just take a deep breath.
The cherry blossoms will they'll bloom for sure. That's a nonpartisan issue.
Stop and smell the flowers once in a while. I
Yeah.
saw the cherry blossoms
touch
last
grass,
week. They're
right?
so beautiful. Yes, touch grass. Congressman Emmer, thank you so much for your time. We've loved having you on. We'd love to have you back. So we'll see you again very soon.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.